The gross domestic product for the first quarter of 2025 dropped by 0.3%. And the media is saying this is the negative fallout from President Trump. See, they told you so. He was going to mess it all up, and he did. But when you drill into the details, there's some interesting things here that may not be the case. Almost every marker of GDP was up, except government consumption expenditures. Government spending, which was always up during the Biden administration. And in fact, this is why the Biden administration always took credit for a strong economy, is because it was government growth. We held their feet to the fire for it. Now take a look at the Trump administration's first quarter GDP, and it shows that all other measures are up, but government spending is down. Not that one. Can you go forward to the next one? Yes. So these are the numbers we're looking at. Economist Peter St. Onge joins us to break this down. So, Professor St. Onge, did Trump tank the economy, or just in the ways that he said he would?
You know, the media was waiting for this, man. They were so happy to see that negative number. So this was a kind of a crazy GDP report, and it was actually a blockbuster report. It was off the charts, fantastic, but it was a negative number. And the market actually took a minute to figure it out. So when the report first came out, mainstream media, they said negative, we're in a recession. Look, Trump has done it. Did you vote for this? And the Dow Jones actually dropped about 2,000 points just off the bat. And then it immediately started rebounding as the analysts on Wall Street figured out what was actually in this report. By the end of the day, the market was actually up on it. And so what happened is that the entire negative part of the print, yes, you had government shrinking, and that was the first time that it happened, of course, since Biden came into the office. But the big one was that the negative was because imports are being front run, right? So there was a 41% increase in imports. And these are companies trying to bring imports in before the tariffs hit. So that's cars, it's clothes, it's everything under the sun. Those subtracted something like 4.1% off of GDP. So when you import stuff, it's kind of weird, but it counts as negative GDP. The assumption is that it's going to increase the GDP in future. But anyway, it's not accurate for this purpose. It's kind of a statistical quirk. So now what's fun is that if you strip out that front running, then you actually had about 4.5% growth. Okay. And as you mentioned, government actually shrank, right? That's what was driving the whole thing during Biden. So if you ignore that, you're looking at close to 5% growth, which is extraordinary. Now, where did that come from? One huge number, which was investment. So Trump has been talking about all the money he's bringing into the country. A lot of it is from foreigners. So you've got $2 trillion coming in from Saudi and Dubai. They've already promised that because they want to get on Trump's good side. Apple is bringing $500 billion in. You've got Taiwan Semiconductor, biggest, most sophisticated semiconductor company in the world. They're doing $165 billion in Arizona. Altogether, Trump is talking $5 trillion in investment that have come in just since he took office. Now, to put that in perspective, in a normal year, the entire U.S. economy, 320 million people, largest economy in the world, the entire economy racks up $4 trillion. Okay, and Trump has brought in, he actually says the number is 8. A lot of it's not public yet. So he has between doubled and tripled the amount of investment coming in the country. Now, what does that mean? So the Taiwan project in Arizona, they're talking about 40,000 construction jobs, which are going to Americans, oddly enough. You multiply that by all of that investment, you could be talking at 500,000 or more jobs to build the stuff. That doesn't even get into all the people you're going to have to hire to run that and to produce products here in America. So I had been skeptical on the tariffs. I loved them as a negotiating tactic, but I kept saying, look, it's going to take years and years to reindustrialize. Takes, a year plus to stand up a factory. What we're seeing right now is there is such a flood of investment in the country. And they're doing it for two reasons. One of them is that they want to get on Trump's good side. So everybody in the whole world knows that the way that you make Trump happy is that you dump $1 trillion in the U.S. and you create 100,000 jobs. So that's one reason why they want to do it. The other reason, of course, is the tariffs themselves. So they are looking at, frankly, it's chaos. Trump is being chaotic on tariffs. He's up 25 with Mexico. He's down 25 with Canada. They're all over the place. And I think he's doing that on purpose. He wants to create uncertainty for these foreign companies so that just, eventually they just say, screw it, I'm going to produce in America. I'm going to get under that tariff umbrella. I'm never going to have to worry about tariffs again. So you put those two together, and we are reindustrializing, I think, at a pace very few people imagined. And at this pace, we actually will start to produce significant amounts in this country. And the kicker is it'll be paid for by foreigners.
Well, that's one of the big pieces of this. Although the Trump administration last week announced, hey, these factories that are going to be brought to the United States will even cover the cost of building the factory. Yeah. Right, we will subsidize that piece of it. I thought that this GDP number was fascinating because isn't this what you get when so much of the GDP is reliant on all these government jobs. You cut all of these government jobs, and you start to shift those jobs from the government to the private sector. You're going to see a shift in GDP, are you not?
You absolutely are. And what you're getting at is the quality of the GDP. So GDP includes a lot of things. Fundamentally, GDP just measures what was spent. If we build a bunch of bombs and then we give them to Ukraine and they blow up bridges, okay, fundamentally, we could have spent the money digging holes and filling them back in because it didn't actually create anything for us, right? Another big element of GDP that was popular under Joe Biden was mass migration. So if you are handing money to illegals and they're spending it on stuff, that shows up as GDP. Elon had made the point a couple months ago that if you fire everybody who works in the car industry right now and you rehire them at the DMV to look out the window and you pay them a higher salary to do that, which is, how it works. Government workers are very well paid. If you do that, you actually increase GDP. Now that's nuts, right? But that's how GDP is counted. So when most people are thinking of GDP, they think when GDP goes up, we get rich. When it goes down, we get poor. That's generally true, but there's a lot of funny numbers there. And right, one of them is government spending is counted as GDP no matter what it is spent on. Another is that illegal migrants are going to show up as GDP because the people whose job they took are getting welfare, which is GDP. They themselves are getting paid, which is GDP. So it looks like an increase, even though the country is getting poor. So exactly what's happening is that we are replacing that Biden era really junk GDP, like government spending, mass migration, bombs to give to other countries. We're replacing that with what's turning out to be really the absolute gold standard, like the juiciest part of GDP, the dream part of GDP is investment, because investment is how you get rich. If you put $1 billion into a factory, that's because you're going to be running it. You're going to be creating jobs. The amount of prosperity that you create from that factory, it just keeps going on 20, 30 years.
Right. So something that you've been talking about for the last 4 years, because I watch you regularly, is every time Joe Biden took a victory lap on the GDP, we had to tamper that with knowledge that that's tax dollars, that's government jobs, that's government expansion. That's not the good kind of GDP that we want. Now, take a look at this. Interest on federal debt declined for the first time since Trump was president last. Now, we know that the interest on our debt is what we continue to kick the can down the road and put on our children. So this is also a campaign promise. Is it encouraging to see, even though it's ever so slight, a downward trend for the first time?
Yeah, when you've got something that's going parabolic like that, that's just going straight up to heaven, any kind of bend on the curve is very welcome. Federal spending, it's still going up because there's a lot of automatic kickers in there. So we're still working with Joe Biden's budget. Congress just basically kicked out the budget. Trump has not had a say in it yet. We've got the interest rates are high now. So you've got a lot of old debt that was really cheap because they got it during COVID at 0%, and now it's expensive. There's all these reasons why the total amount of government spending is still going up. But Trump absolutely has been bending the curve on this. He's been doing everything he can with Doge. And I think one important fact, before the election, I had a lot of discussions with my libertarian friends, and they were saying, Trump, same, new boss, same as the old boss. He just wants to spend. Every single budget in Trump's first term, he tried to push through huge cuts. They were like $200-300 billion back when it was a much smaller budget. Every time Congress blocked him, Trump has consistently, ever since he entered politics, he's been trying to cut budget. There's a couple things I disagree with him on, like government or military spending. But having said On everything else, he has been much, much more prudent than anybody we've had since, you could say Bill Clinton, but really that was Newt Gingrich. But it's been 30 years since we've had anybody with a shred of fiscal responsibility, and Trump is doing what he can. The problem, of course, is Congress. So Congress at this point, the Senate seems interested in spending every last penny that DOGE has saved. There's some good people in the House on the Republican side, but that is going to be a heck of a battle.
Yeah.
Peter St. Onge, we really appreciate it. Yeah, it's interesting to see the mainstream media headlines on this, GDP down under Trump. It's like, actually, when you dive into the numbers.
Yeah, this is the kind of down we wanted. Shrinking government. So we wanted that. We did that on purpose. We voted for it.
Thank you, Peter. Great to see you as always.
Great to be on, guys.
Peter.
Thanks.